All right, go for it.
Good morning, everyone. It's the one and only the Senor Silverback himself, aka V the Gorilla Economist, coming to you with my main man, CJ, aka El Cuco. And he's working the airwaves, making sure this broadcast is coming out crispy and clean. We have none other than Tatiana Moroz with us. Tatiana, it's been a very, very long time. Glad to have you back. CJ told me this morning you were fired up. You were filled with righteous indignation because of all the shenanigans going on with the deep state, the gun grabs. I mean, where do you want to begin? I mean, I'm just going to unleash you. I know you're fueled up on some dark roast. Let's go at it, girl. Let's go.
Well, thank you first of all for having me back on. It's good to hang with you guys. I am fired up because I try to stay out of a lot of the things that are going on in politics because I do a lot more stuff in cryptocurrency, and I'm not interested in politics so much. I mean, I am, but I don't think of it as a solution. Mm-hmm. And then when something happens, like the school shooting in Florida, right. What are you really supposed to say about something like that? It's such a hot issue.
See, we can't use those words. Google will flag us. We have to use a photo shoot in the Sunshine State. Okay.
Wait, did I curse? I didn't even realize.
No, he's playing.
School shooting. We can't use school shooting. We have to use photo shoots now. Photo shoots in the Sunshine
I don't know about the new rules.
Yeah, there's no
word
AR-15.
Police are out in full effect.
Yeah, the AR. There's no AR-15s, Tatiana. It was a Nikon D3. That's what the kid was doing during the photo shoot. But go ahead.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. I think that there's a lot of hot button issues, and I think that people are not listening. So I usually don't weigh in.
Yeah.
I also find it very annoying that people never talk about the rampant overprescription of drugs to children constantly, drugs that have been proven to have very negative effects. Mm-hmm. I try and not weigh in on these things. But when you think about what Trump is doing now, saying we need due process second, take the guns first, and now trying to raise the age. I mean, this is really scary. And I feel like I'm watching a scary movie from far away, and I feel a little disconnected. But the reality is that things are really bad out there in a lot of ways when it comes to government. I mean, I think there's a lot of great progress with crypto and with, I guess freedom being available to other countries in the world, but the US is really going down a scary path. Yeah. And I don't understand why people who hate Trump, think he's Hitler, are like, but he should have all the power of the guns. We should just take it away from the people. Like, I don't even understand. Did these people not hear about Hitler or Mao or Stalin or any of the other gun grabbers? I'm confused. Maybe you guys can help me understand.
They obviously haven't. And my whole thing is this. It's, I love when these idiots keep telling me, well, that's just for, the Second Amendment. That was for like sports shooting because, they had to it was for sports. No, you idiot. It was for, well, if they didn't hunt, they didn't eat, number one. And number two, a well-regulated militia is one thing, but also that the citizen has the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed because we know what happens when lunatic statists get to amass power, and it's never a good thing. And T, I'll tell you right now, it's this whole entire thing about getting rid of due process, putting due process second, and then deeming somebody mentally ill. At what point? I like to know how loosely termed that wording is. Mental illness.
Course.
Does it mean like somebody who loves freedom is a libertarian? Is a constitutionalist, is somebody who's into cryptos, who's anti-status? Would they deem that mental illness? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a few years ago, that you had far leftist professors and psychologists saying that conservatism and libertarianism is a mental disorder. So it's a slippery slope, and it's very scary.
Well, that's what I've just seen going wrong for a long time is, you have a mental health check, but if you are a dissident and you don't believe in the current government, then how long until they start saying, oh, well, you and your crazy libertarian stuff, you must be mentally ill. I don't know. I just don't understand, why don't people see that? I think that it's so glaringly obvious that that's what's happening. And I don't like to just dismiss people out of hand and say they're all stupid. But with something like this,
you know what? You get to the point in your life where you look at human history and you look at where our own country's going, and you'd have to say to yourself, damn it, people really are that stupid. They really are. I'd say 40% of the country is gone. They're cuckoo. They're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They'll go along with anything.
So I have a theory about this. The reason why people are so retarded is television. So,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, if you think about how much propaganda we've been fed since we were children, and not just the really overt stuff, the sort of more insidious type of thing where your natural assumption is that the police are there to do good, or your natural assumption is that politicians are good guys, and that if there's any corruption, it'll be routed out. And it was, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you naturally assume that the courts function well, and that you know, maybe the courts are a little messed up, but there's justice. But the statistics and the facts don't support this in any way whatsoever. And, you know, until you go up against the state, which a lot of people, you know, don't necessarily have to deal with that, they think that everything is fine and they think that everything functions. But when you get a little bit older and you see just how dysfunctional it is, I mean, they had a million reports on this kid in Florida. They did nothing.
Right.
They had all these regulations in place. Nobody followed the rules. Guess what? Criminals don't follow the rules, and governments suck at things. Exactly. They're very bad at basically everything that they do except for murdering people. That's their number one excelling point, is locking people up and killing them. Otherwise, they're not doing a good job. So why would you give them more power?
Exactly. You know,
like literally, why? I don't. Can someone explain to me what the logic is there?
Exactly. No, it's a perfect point. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you look at the whole Florida incident, and you've seen this, I've seen this in Florida during the photo shoot. I've seen it at the photo shoot over at Virginia Tech a few years ago. Remember that, Virginia Tech? That guy, the Asian guy, went in with a Beretta.
Oh no, you can't. He's only white men.
Oh, yeah,
only white men are shooters. I'm sorry. We have to retract your statement.
I'm sorry.
Doesn't fit with our narrative.
This evil all about
Caucasian skin color.
Guy. It was a Caucasian guy wearing an Asian man's mask, and he had a Nikon 9mm Nikon. So he decided to go do a lot of photo shoots in his college dorm. The funny thing is, what were the cops doing? What were the cops doing in Virginia Tech? What were the cops doing in Florida? They were outside. They were just sitting around while shots were being fired inside the building. Nobody went in. And then that pig-faced kid that CNN is trotting around all over the place, that pig-faced little...
I hate that little brat.
I want to
Sorry for the random interjection, but that kid is horrible. Somebody needs to deck him a little bit. I'm not into violence, but that kid deserves a smack.
I would pick him up by his legs and beat his dad with him. That's what I would do. I would pick him up by his legs and beat his dad with him.
Be like, look what you did.
Yeah, seriously, you're a failure as a man. Look at you. This is your progeny. This little little libtard. That kid is the funniest thing is it's like the shooter was identified at I believe 3:30 p.m. and this kid is live streaming on Facebook or whatnot at 3:00 p.m. stating that they captured the shooter and his name is this, that, and the other.
He was so creepy in that video. What's going on with that video? He's like, oh my God, I'm a Kardashian. Like, what in the world is going on with this whole situation?
Crisis actor par excellence. And the point is that these cops were outside waiting. They were just waiting like cowards. So here's the deal. So we're supposed to give up our guns. You guys get 1,000,001 tips that this kid's a nut job. He's about to shoot up the place. And when he does shoot up the place, you don't go in and you just wait and stand down. And we're supposed to give up, and giving up our guns is going to make us more safe.
But who is so stupid to believe that? Like, that is the most obvious thing to say, well, these guys, they're not doing their job. We need to think of something else. I don't know. What do y'all think about arming the teachers and stuff? I'm a little bit, I don't know what to say about a lot of that stuff because, I worry, okay, you arm the teachers. Maybe people don't know where the gun-free school zones are, and that's pretty good. But then you're sort of normalizing having weapons, and I don't know if that's so great either, right? Because then it's almost like, when does this stop being a school, and when does it start turning into a prison?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I don't really know if that's the solution either. What do you guys think is an actual solution? I'm curious.
I think the solution is real simple. I mean, you look at most schools. This country, we spend on average $10,000 per student on average. I mean, those are old, 2013 figures. It's probably even more than that.
I think it's a lot more, but I don't know what it is. Continue.
So we're spending an astronomical amount per student, number one. Number two, we have these ridiculous school taxes. So in other words, the money's there. There's plenty of money for them to have an armed police officer at every school. They have the money to do that, okay? if people don't,
but what about the administrators? What will they do? How they're a very important critical component of our education system. That's why they have a number of
and if you look at every single school district. Now you're in Jersey. You know how it is. You go to this, the school district, the administrative offices there, and same thing here in New York. You'll see it. It's the same thing. Go drive to the parking lot. You'll see Mercedes S classes, Audi A8s, BMW 7 Series, Lexuses. I mean, you see luxury cars parked out there. I mean, superintendents of school district in especially where we live right here in the Northeast, they're making $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 a year. Average. Unreal. It's unreal. For what? For teaching kids that 2 + 2 isn't 4. It's whatever you feel. It's the most stupidest thing in the world. And we have a failing educational system that can't compete globally with other industrialized nations. And there's money there. It's just being wasted. So we could definitely afford at least one cop at a school.
Well, also, why don't we? I mean, first of all, it would be great if we just use this as an excuse to do more homeschooling. When are we going to sort of look at what's happening, and when is it going to be enough is enough, right? Because they're basically, they are requiring us to not believe our own eyes and to completely be illogical. How much capacity does humanity have? Like, what the hell's going to happen in our lifetimes? Because you saw what happened with World War II, World War I, all these other wars and stuff, 20th century total disaster. It doesn't seem to be improving in certain respects. I mean, we've got shows like this. We've got all sorts of different efforts around the world for a pro-freedom message. But I don't know. There's a lot of robots out there. And it seems to be the socially acceptable solution to be a liberal. I grew up in Jersey. My family was pretty anti-government in general. So yay, parents, way to go. But, I remember listening and hearing, okay, Republicans like smaller government and blah, blah. And then Democrats, they like, they don't trust the people and they want bigger government to protect the people. And it was sort of imposed on you right then. Well, if you like people, then you have to be a Democrat. And then all of television teaches you that all the cool kids are liberal. And I don't know, are they? And that's sort of what ends up happening. Like this default thinking of people who want to be socially acceptable are being filtered into this like groupthink. And I mean, I haven't heard that phrase wake up so often as I did in 2012, right? So when all those Ron Paulers were coming, the main question, the number one question of the year in 2012 to me was, when did you wake up? But I don't really know if we're getting that much waking up lately. I think we're just getting a bunch of grumbling and anger, and then a radicalization of the right, which is just weird. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen to us, guys. Do you have any predictions? I don't know why I'm like taking over this interview. Well, what do y'all think is going to happen?
You've made several valid points, and one of the things that I keep circling back to in my mind is that there's some other weapons, some pistols, Glocks that have, I believe, some of the capacity of their magazines are 13 and 17. So what's going to prevent the next time that someone goes in with 2 Glocks and kills just the same amount or more? And I think this is a true honeypot that was set up for the administration, for Trump, and he's kind of falling into that trap because we know specifically his base are liberty people, are people who believe in the First Amendment, people who believe in the weapons, the ability to be able to protect your home. The trap is that he's going to fall into it because he's now stating specifically that, hey, let's look at these guns, let's raise the age to 21. Okay, well, what are you going to do for the people that are in the military with their weapons? What are you going to do? Say raise the age to join the military to 21? Yeah. So what he
but then who will fight the war, CJ? Who will fight the war?
And what he could have done specifically is says, what I'm going to do, because I'm under a lot of pressure to take action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch an investigation of the breakdown of what occurred in this sheriff's department, in this school administration office, to determine what exactly happened. That's what needs to happen, not this whole, listen, gun regulations, all these things is very sloppy. It's very lazy. It's because it's the easiest thing to do versus, trying to go after the hard part, which is the mental health of our students and the social pressures that are there. And then obviously the prescription medications time after time again. And no one's even talking about it. You look at the news, you look at Facebook, social media, no one's even talking about these dangerous prescription medications that every one of these mass shooters has been prescribed. We're just trying to take the lazy way out, and this is feeding right into the propaganda, right into the fact. The inevitable point is that their ultimate goal is to seize all guns, not just these high capacity assault rifles.
Yeah.
The thing about the mental health issue is that I think a lot of people don't talk about the drugs because a lot of people are on them. Boom. And they're, with varying levels of success. I know some people that take antidepressants and they feel that they help them greatly, and who am I to say that they shouldn't? I think that that's why they don't want to call it out. It also sort of underlines from a psychological perspective, their own deficiencies. So they're like, oh, they're perceived deficiencies, whatever, they don't want to necessarily look at that. But then there's also the issue of the family breakdown. You've got terrible television raising your kids. Yep. All these parents are basically at work all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've had a generation of children raised by television, at least a couple of generations. I don't know. I mean, I feel it's so weird being like, but what about the family? Because I don't consider myself, an old fuddy-duddy. But seriously, what about the family? These kids are lost and they don't even know how to communicate with each other.
Right.
So, there's going to be crazy sometimes.
The whole thing is when you look at it, all it is because we've replaced family with the state. We replaced community with the state. We replaced religion with the state. We replaced everything with the state. And we entrusted the state. The state becomes our God, and we entrusted the state for taking care of us. And the state, like you said so eloquently, the state does a crappy, shitty job of trying to take care of us, number one. And they're great. They're great at one thing, and you nailed it. They are great at killing. Democide.
And locking people up. Free Ross.
Yep, there you go. We had Ross's mom on a couple weeks ago. She was great.
I know. She said she had a good time.
Yeah. So, this is what happens. And then the state, which is basically filled with criminally insane psychopaths and sociopaths, these guys think that they know what's best. So what do? Here's a young person in trouble. They have, and we only know, 30% maybe of what the brain does. And we're going to go ahead and take a developing mind and then give it psychotropic drugs. It's the most insane thing in the world. No one looks at anything holistically in this country. No one says, okay, maybe the reason why the kid is really off his kilter is because his diet is out of whack. Maybe he has way too much refined foods and processed foods.
Or all he does is sit in front of his computer all day long. Bingo. Send the little brat outside.
Exactly.
Fresh air.
Right. And then instead,
have you tried play?
You're right, exactly. But instead, it's like, here, have some lithium. And they're doling out meds, and the damage that's being done to these kids' brains is terrible. In some cases, irreversible. And this is what happens.
Bananas.
Then you have all sorts of photo shoots happening all over the place, and then the initial knee-jerk reaction is to grab the cameras. or being euphemistic.
Well, next thing up on the chopping block: forks, knives, any kind of eating utensils. No. Even spoons can be a danger. Just use your hands. And if you ever hit someone, we'll chop those off.
Yeah.
I mean, where does it end?
It doesn't end until we turn into Europe. That's the future. I mean, look at Europe. Look at Canada. Look at what's happening. Look at Sweden. My God, you want to talk about a nightmare?
Talk about the crazy scariness of what's happening in Europe. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
Look, you can't let in all these people without a proper channel of vetting. Yeah. They don't want to assimilate. They're destroying Europe. Let them go to other countries in their region. But of course, that's not on the agenda, right? So, I mean, look, I feel very bad for people that have war-torn nations. I'm very, very sorry that my country is one of the biggest propagators, if not number one warmonger of the world. But you can't just have floods of people with completely different backgrounds going into a place, and then you can't even call them out. If there's a rapist and they're from one of these countries, they're not even allowed to talk about it.
No.
That's very, very scary. I feel very bad for those people. I'm not trying to blanket them, but when you have 2 million or 3 million or millions of people, I don't know how many million, flooding a region without any interest of assimilation, most of them are illiterate, or a lot of them are illiterate. That's not a good combination. I'm sorry. Maybe that's not PC, and that's I'm not looking to offend people from other countries that are genuinely suffering, and I would love to offer them opportunities, but you can't save everybody, and you can't destroy other places in order to like make yourself feel better. It's like, stop invading them. That would be the first step. Could we do that?
Exactly. That's the first. This is what kills me. It's when you look at the number one thing in the United States, which that screws everything up. And I love it when people say, "Well, if we don't go there and fight them, because they hate us for our freedoms."
Yeah,
no, moron. They don't hate us for our freedoms because we don't have much freedom. I think we rank like number 45 in the world in terms of personal liberties and freedoms right now. It's atrocious. What they hate us for is our schizophrenic foreign policy. That's what they hate us for. We literally go to places. I mean, the last 50 years, we've overthrown.
I don't even know if it's schizophrenic. I feel like it's just murderous.
It is murderous. You're absolutely right. That's even better. You're right. To call it schizophrenic is to really put a warm, fuzzy kind of, they're there, feel kind of sorry for it. No, it's a murderous foreign policy. Thank you. That is the best definition I've ever heard. And that's the problem. We have a murderous foreign policy that does nothing but destroy nations, displace individuals. I mean, it's disgusting. Look what we did to Iraq. I remember on 9/11, people were like tweeting out, RIP to the 3,000 Americans who lost their lives in 9/11. And I tweeted, I said, RIP to the 3,000 Americans who lost their lives on 9/11, and RIP to the 1.5 million Iraqis who had nothing to do with it. It's the craziest thing in the world. It's
so distant from how, like, you experience something, right? You hear about these big, huge, massive numbers of people, and they just all kind of blend into each other. Yep. But it's like, oh, you mean you didn't like your children dying in this school shooting? Well, guess what? They didn't like their millions of children dying in the Middle East and whatever other godforsaken places we're terrorizing.
Yep.
I mean, why? Like the view of life is so skewed because you can imagine a few children, right, in Florida. But when it's such a massive number, you completely lose context and you don't feel bad for them. You just are like, well, that's cause war. Oh, well, they shouldn't hate us for our freedoms. Like, I don't even understand what they're thinking about.
So
there's complete disconnect with reality.
It really is. And they've conditioned us, the American public, to be very juvenile, very childish, very sophomoric in our view of life. I mean, look at it. I mean, just the conditioning. They hate us for our freedoms. It's the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. And yet that's what they say. They reduced us to where we look at a typical sitcom. The man is the doting idiot.
I hate that. No
so
wonder
stupid.
Guys are such doofuses. Look at who their role models are.
Exactly. When your role models Ray Romano and Doug Heffernan, you got a problem. And granted, those are great comedies, but this is all you see. When you look at beer commercials, it's all about men being juvenile delinquents. It's all about, acting like an idiot, or you're the 40-year-old guy, but you're still acting like a frat boy. It's the dumbest.
Yeah, that's really cute.
World. Yeah,
it's
there's
so
no responsibility
awful
anymore. Masculinity is being destroyed and cast on the wayside, and it's terrible.
So do you guys ever listen to Jordan Peterson?
Love Jordan.
Me too. So I've been like, I heard Jordan Peterson is horrible.
He's
He's awesome. He's just telling people to be, he's the cuck slayer. That's hilarious. First of all, he's always classy. I would love to take a lesson from his ability to remain very restrained and calm when making his points. Mm-hmm. And he's very fair to whoever it is that's interviewing him. So 8 points on that, right? But then all he's really asking for is some personal responsibility for people.
Right.
What's wrong with that? I love it. I think it's wonderful. And it really underlines the lack of masculinity for men and this whole, bro culture that is propagated throughout every form of media as if it's something cool. Like I'm single, right? So it's super depressing, right? You go on Tinder and you see these dudes. I want to see a guy like that looks like he's got a job. I don't want to see a guy who's like guzzling from like various boobs or like bottles. Like that's not attractive to me. Like I don't even understand who told these dudes that was going to be a good thing.
It's ridiculous.
Like they can't even take a Tinder picture. Like, come on, we need some help. We need some structure.
And that's what happens. It's what they do with the young boys who show any sort of rambunctiousness. What do? They grab them. They medicate them off the bat. Look at the autism rates among males. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what the state wants. The state wants not only to basically, they want weak, effeminate men so they're easier to control. But, you know, I think Paul Joseph Watson launched that terminology, soy boys.
Soy boys. Yeah, all the chicks are going to get really pissed because they're not getting any good dudes. So they're just going to get more neurotic and angry.
Exactly.
Like, this is terrible. This isn't helping anybody.
Soy boys. Did you see the latest video that he did where they actually proved the symptom of all these soy boys are taking pictures with their mouths open?
Yeah.
They do these selfies with their open mouths, and that's the soy boy smile. It's terrible.
Well, you know what's interesting is on the tip of the alpha male. Yeah. When I was visiting Ross in prison last time, and I was we were just, I mean, I'm there for like hours, right? So we were talking, and he was just like saying that basically, you know, I'm saying, oh, you know, they're taking all the alpha men out. He's like, yeah, and they're putting them in jail. And he made me think about it. I was like, you know what? A lot of the men are probably not the guys that are going to take shit. And that's why they are also in prison. And I thought that was a really depressing and interesting observation. I also sort of credit that with the military men. So all the military men, they're just all gone. Like all the guys that have any guts, they're just, you know, out there somewhere fighting for God knows what reason. When we need their freedom fighting back at home. What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Y'all think we're going to have like a war or how? I mean, I'm almost thinking, you know, Trump, I've never been full on Trump, but I do find him hilarious. And he is my least annoying president so far because he rags on the state and he kind of brings a lot of truth to his insanity. But now, I don't know, man. He keeps like he's like a warmonger. He's trying to take away the guns. Yeah, he lowered the taxes. That was cool, but he's raising other taxes, and then he's raising crazy spending on the military because you know they need our money. What's going to happen? Is he an inside job?
You know, it's the mess that is DC, and I think what's going to happen is this. And I've look. Here's the deal: you got the 2018 midterm elections coming, right? And I've been saying this for quite some time. By the 2018 midterm elections, if we don't put a stop to this, unless we vote out every single establishment candidate, both on the right and the left, if we don't do that, then we've lost it. If come 2018,
do you think voting is real? Like, do you really think that voting does something?
At the local and state level, it pretty much is. I mean, there's a a good chance for us to make some inroads on the local level. The point being also is we have a lot of these things, these rumors and stuff going on in the background with this whole QAnon stuff and these arrests and Hillary Clinton. My thing is this: if come to 2018 midterm elections and Hillary Clinton's still walking around, you got John Insane in the Membrane McCain walking around, you got Adam Schiffer Brains walking around, you got the Podestas out there, you got all these people just walking around, nothing's happening. I mean, then you know what? It's either two things are going to happen. Well, there's the meteor that's going to hit us, and that meteor is an economic collapse. That's going to be coming. It's around,
and they're going to blame it on Trump's capitalism if it happens. So like, see, capitalism is bad.
Exactly,
it's unbelievable.
Exactly.
That's why I think he's an inside job, because I think if the economy is ever going to crash, the best time is to do it while Trump is in there. I mean, he's a statist.
That's what they want to do. They want to try and crash the economy. The second thing that could happen is this. It's unless, honestly, at this point, things have gotten so bad. I think it's time that Americans start dusting off their rifles. That the 60% of the country that is still American, that is still awake, that is still cares and gives a damn about what happens to this nation. I think it's about time we dust off our rifles, lock and load, and pay a visit to Washington, D.C. and get every single one of these criminals out by force. It has to. It's going to come down to that.
I think that. So I had a guy who's always trolling my page. He's actually a friend of mine, nice guy, but like kind of a lefty, Bernie lover. Anyway, not total idiot, but yeah, no, he's cool. He's we disagree politically. You know what I mean? On a lot of things. So he starts saying, "Oh, it's only for a well-regulated militia, and we should take away the guns and stuff." God. And my simple question is okay, so if you think we have a fascist in office and we both agree that the government is completely corrupted and ruined, what method do we have in order to change it? Because voting isn't working, right? So for the most part, I mean, look, we all vote. We've got a ton of rampant, crazy corruption in this country. None of that has done anything. So if we don't have our guns, what are other solutions in order to force the government to stop forcing us to do 50 million things that we don't want to do and be slaves? How do we get them to stop doing that? Is there an actual answer other than what you suggested?
No, there's no other answer. It's coming down to the point.
There is.
No, it's
unless like maybe if we had a cultural awakening and then they would put that wave of pressure that would maybe maintain the semblance of government for a little while. Like if government was like, all right, we're definitely going to lose. We're going to get completely overthrown. People are going to go crypto all the way. And then we're not going to be relevant anymore. Let's tone it back. I think then maybe they could maintain their power, but there has to be a boiling point. I don't know. Yeah. Because what other solution is there?
No, we've reached the boiling point, and it's you know, it has definitely gotten to that point. And my whole thing is this: it's like they're leaving us with no recourse. They're leaving us with no wiggle room. We've tried to do this peaceably. We tried to do this. And you got the 2018 midterm elections. If things do not change by 2019, I really fear that people are either they're going to lose their crap. Something is going to happen. A breaking point is coming.
So what do we do? Well, okay. So first of all, that's scary. Second of all, what the hell do we do to get away from that? Like, I'm not going to fight. Yeah. I mean, these guns are like decent, but they're not going to do much. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to get murdered. So, but the thing is that where do you even go? Because the rest of the world is under the thumb of the United States. So if the United States falls, I feel like
it's not even. No, the rest of the world's not.
Freedom in the hearts of humanity won't die. That's the other thing. Like, I think human beings have it within them, no matter how subjugated they are, to still fight for freedom. Like, not everybody. There's a bunch of wusses.
I think there's a couple.
There's
definitely
some resistance.
I think there's a couple of steps that, you know, legitimately could do, because we're in that danger zone right now. I mean, I think that the 2018 midterms will flip the Senate to the Democrats. It's trending. I think that's going to happen. And the real danger is,
why do you think that? Because you just think that people from the Republican Party are going to be like, F this, and they're like, oh, I want to be a Democrat now?
Yeah, if you take a look at numerous,
give me all that pork.
There are some strong GOP strongholds, like certain states, that already their representative is starting to flip to the Democrats currently, and that's happening right now. Their movement is gaining strength, and the administration is running into the danger that he's going to lose some of his base, some of the people that supported him. So I think that we need to put pressure on the administration right now. One of the easiest things to do is to really pressure and start a movement regarding firing Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions has done nothing except for expand the military state here domestically in the U.S.
But he likes that. He likes that stuff. He's all about the coppers.
He's refusing.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's refusing to go after the criminals. He is pushing the war on drugs. All of those things that then candidate Trump was against at that time, and that's what's so disheartening and what's very discouraging. That, again, leading into the next 6 months, real danger that we could be looking at a one-term president. Come 2020.
Don't worry, CJ. There's breadcrumbs. QAnon's going to drop some breadcrumbs tonight, so it's going to be okay.
Who's this QAnon guy? I keep hearing about him, and I don't understand why this. Because I read like a couple things that they wrote, and I don't understand why they can't just write it in English. Like, why does it have to be in code? This is silly. But maybe I just read like a small snippet and I wasn't hip. Is that what he does? He just leaves cryptic messages? I'm going to start doing that.
I'm going to do the same thing.
The government is going to do a bad job tomorrow.
I think Q was kind of like an attempt to to kick the can down the road, because we've been hearing about, all these sealed indictments, all these arrests. I think the reason why so many people are getting the hell out of DC is because they see around the corner. I mean, who wants to be in DC whenever there's potentially a demise in the US dollar, when we see that our debt is going to go to exceed $23 trillion, this year alone? Who wants to be in DC whenever it's time that the people wake up and say, who do we need to hold accountable for this? And it's those individuals in the DC. So I think that's why they're getting the heck out. They see the writing on the wall around that corner. And I think that there is a legitimate, question to ask. A lot of people were theorizing that Trump was placed there because he's managed debt before and he knows how to restructure debt. And, that's why he's placed there. That's why they don't care right now about spending. They understand that the dollar is going to lose 40 to 60% of its value. So they're spending money like crazy right now. They're ramping things up in preparation for that. The same thing with touting the stock market, touting the economy. The reason why, because they want to get as many young people, people that are getting out of school, going into college or working for it. They want to get as many people contributing back to the system. They need that inflow of dollars going back into the market. That's why they're propping it up and they continue to hype it up so much, as they want that money. They need that dollar in the system. So, and how do we counter that? We counter that exactly what you said, Tatiana, the cryptos, getting people to, to decentralize, get out of the existing systems now while they can, and do it for their family. I think it's important right now that, people tune into, the work that you're doing, the work that Rogue is doing, and they have to encourage their friends and family to turn off their televisions and stop listening to this propaganda that's out there right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that people are waking up, but I just don't know if it'll happen fast enough.
Yeah. That's my thing as well.
I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic. I don't know. Whatever. I feel like it feels very surreal. I feel very disconnected from like the reality.
You know what would help? That'll be a big morale boost for, I'd say, 60 to 70% of this country. Would be a massive boost if somebody who's high profile actually got arrested and went to prison. That would be a beautiful morale boost. Somebody evil, somebody corrupt, somebody that we all know is a corrupt individual, somebody who's a serious statist, was actually, arrested. That'd help. Another thing that would help is if we actually.
I would love it. They never arrest anybody.
That's the problem.
They're like useless.
Yep.
We're literally like useless. Can you name a single person that does something really, like, I don't even know if anybody ever gets in trouble from DC.
Nobody.
I've never heard of anybody actually getting in trouble.
You got Jeff the Chipmunk Sessions. He's focused on marijuana because he's Reefer Madness Sessions. He's focused on that. Not a single investigation on Hillary Clinton. I mean, think about it this way, Tatiana. As I'm sitting here talking to you, and I made this point so many times before in the past, Peter Strzok, right? The guy who was in the middle of the Clinton investigation, the FBI agent who was in charge of the fake Russian dossier, the guy who orchestrated this whole entire thing, Peter Strzok right now is sitting at his desk at the FBI, reading his emails, sipping his coffee, getting a paycheck. His girlfriend... On us. His girlfriend, the horse face Lisa Page, is right now sitting at her desk doing whatever. Okay, I don't know, maybe texting Peter. I have no idea, right? Andrew McCabe, former assistant deputy director of the FBI. He is retired. He retired early, collecting a $2 million pension every day. Yeah, $2 million pension. Like, think about that. $2 million government pension, taxpayer paid, full benefits.
But what would we do without government? I mean, are you kidding? You are so effing stupid. Like, they are bad at their job. They all need to be fired.
They do.
They do. So ridiculous.
Yep. And this is what's happening. And after all these allegations, nobody's fired. After all the proof, and Jeff the Chipmunk Sessions doesn't seem to, he doesn't seem to want to go look into that direction. He'd rather look at civil asset forfeiture. Well, that's a wonderful thing, right, Tatiana? I mean, civil asset forfeiture.
Oh my God. The stats on that are so scary. They stole more through civil asset forfeiture than all the other theft combined.
I know.
I don't know if they're counting taxation, though. So.
Yeah, not counting taxation. Exactly. It's funny. I had a buddy of mine who happened to have, pick up some money to, he does work for clients. And he happened to drive through the state of Georgia. And he didn't realize about the civil asset forfeiture thing. Cops pull him over for I don't know, speeding or whatever. He's got Florida plates on. They shake him down, and the young guy's an innocent dude, doesn't know anything. He's not he's not sharp when it comes to the laws. Cops like, "Can I search your car?" The guy's like, "Yeah, I got nothing." Sure. He goes into the guy's briefcase, opens a briefcase. He sees a couple of wads of hundreds. Okay, a couple $1,000s there that he got from people's clients. Some people paying cash. He has the invoices to prove this is where the cash is. He's got the paperwork, documents, the whole 9 yards. Cops like, "I don't know about this. It smells like marijuana. Smells like marijuana. I'm gonna have to confiscate this."
Wow.
Oh, it smells like marijuana. I gotta call the boys. Like 15 cop cars come up, and they took like they took about $8,000 off this guy. People's money that people gave to this guy to do a financial service, a fiduciary service that he has invoices for. To this day, this happened 3 years ago. To this day, he's still trying to get that back.
And think about the theft of his time and his stress and his effort and the money that it takes to try and get the money back.
Yeah.
It's just one of the bajillion stories like that.
Yeah. These are jackbooted assholes. And you want to give them more power? I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Sick.
Yeah. It's very disheartening.
At least in CJ State, you could shoot a cop. If a cop decides to like try to come to your door and try to break down your door without a warrant, you could actually shoot a cop dead in Indiana. That's a good thing.
Well, I mean, if somebody comes into your house, I don't know. I'm not going to weigh in on that. I'm sure cops deserve to be killed sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because they're going around killing people all the time, willy-nilly.
Without a warrant, you try to. I don't care if you got a badge, uniform. You don't have a warrant. I happen to be living in the state of Indiana, and you don't have a warrant. You come breaking down my door, and I feel my family's threatened. I am pumping you so full of lead. It's good. I will shoot to kill.
Yeah, but people are getting in trouble for that in different places. You know what I mean? Like cops are going in. Yeah, I think that you sent me an article earlier.
You're dead. A cop could come into your house, eat all your food. A cop could break down your door in New York and in Jersey. A cop could come in, break down your door, kick your dog, slap your wife, sit down at your table, eat all the food in your refrigerator, and then take his squad car, do donuts on your front yard, and go. And you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
And then he'll taser you, tell you to stop resisting. Accurate. Stop resisting.
Yeah.
There's a great video. Our friend Harley Schlanger sent us a great video, and it's amazing the parallel between Lyndon LaRouche and the are you familiar with Lyndon LaRouche, Tatiana?
No, I don't know. No, tell me.
I wasn't either, but it's a great video, and it goes back. He was a political dissident. He was very outspoken during the era of Henry Kissinger, during the era of George Bush, and he talked about the expanding war, talked about the expanding concern that the famine and things in Africa were completely globalist agenda, was very outspoken. And you would not believe the assault that was placed on him and his organization in the United States. It's probably like an hour documentary about it. And it's specific. It's just amazing. They went after all of his media. They went after his political. He was running for president, and he was jailed. He was jailed for a significant amount of time. He doesn't live in the United States anymore. But it's amazing to see the parallel of Lyndon LaRouche, and then you benchmark that about what's happening right now to Trump. There's a lot of parallels there. It's amazing to see history unfold like this.
I guess we just got to hold on to our hats, boys.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Just watch and wait. Watch and wait. That's
and hopefully have more conversations like these.
And you're
I'm afraid of going back to my Facebook post.
And you're providing solutions as well. So you're, with your educating on cryptos and liberty and everything that you're involved with. So please share that.
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay. So I'm doing a lot of stuff lately. It's been fun. I have a company called Crypto Media Hub. We do PR, advertising, social media, and community management, all kinds of like marketing stuff for the crypto space. So that's been going, and I don't know. I like doing that, but I'm more keen to get back into the music. So I'll probably go into the studio this year, maybe in the next month or two, and start working on album number 4. So that'll be cool. And I built a platform with Tokenly called token.fm. Well, they built a platform. I just told them what I thought would be cool. And and we sort of did it as a result of Tatiana Coin and what are the different utilities that you can use for Tatiana Coin and stuff. So we've gotten a little bit of pushback from the legal team in terms of making sure that we're not running afoul of regulations that are obviously unclear. Those are the best kind of regulations.
The ambiguous kind. I love that.
Yeah, they're very convenient. So anyway, I think we're probably going to look to do that as a separate company. So I'm hoping to help lead the effort for that. And that'll be a new challenge. I'm doing a lot of things with Lynn Ulbricht, of course, to help free Ross. and I'm doing a lot of gigs, so that's always fun.
Yeah, real quick regarding the Ulbricht, I did read recently where unfortunately the judge that originally convicted him refused to extend the timeline or to re-review the case. Or is that what happened here recently? Not the Supreme Court, but
there was
judge.
some sort of a thing that happened, but I think that the petition that they put in, they were expecting her to not be favorable, but I don't know if that's referencing something old or something new. I know that judge is pretty unhelpful. Let's put it nicely.
Yeah, she's corrupt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, corrupt, whatever. I can't say anything because, her and her cronies will go after every publication where you make a bad comment about them. She seems really, she's unreal. But they do have their petition out to the Supreme Court right now. And it's basically like the petition that you put in to be approved to be one of the cases. And so they're just waiting on that. So that's like a little bit frustrating because that takes a little bit of a time. We don't know when that's going to kind of come out. But I mean, I'm hoping that there'll be some changes on that for sure. Like getting Ross out of jail.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else?
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's been a good hang, guys.
That's a lot of
I've got
fun.
my podcast going on. Why don't one of you guys come on my podcast? We should do a podcast trade.
Definitely. Just let us know when. You let us know.
I'll
We'll
do that.
be there with bells on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a very
That'd be a lot of fun.
creatively named show. It's the Tatiana Show.
Yeah, that's great.
We're building out a new website for it right now. So that'll be fun when it
Cool.
looks normal. Now it looks a little bit totally 80s.
I'm wide open next week, so just let me know when you want us on, and we'll do it.
All right, I like it. Cool.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to go make some breakfast, but thank you for fighting the good fight and having a good attitude in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. You as well, Tatiana. You as well. Thank you so much for being on. And T, why don't you plug your website and your social media so people can follow you? Go for it.
Oh, sure. Thank you. It's TatianaMoroz.com, CryptoMediaHub.com, and then I'm on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or Tatiana Coin. Y'all can go to my YouTube, Forevermore Tatiana, and catch up with all my stuff there too. So thanks
Perfect.
again for having me, and I'll speak with you guys soon.
Thank you for being on.
Take it away, CJ.
Take care.